Welcome back to the DeadEnd Drive-In. This is our Don't triple feature. We are not reviewing Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood tonight. That might be on a future episode.
And we're not reviewing Don't Kiss Your Cousin at the family reunion either.
No. Oh. All very different. You don't think of those two movies when you talk, Don't Answer the Phone, but they count. If it has a don't at the beginning, we're just going to lump them all together. So we'll get to it eventually. But I am Flesh Wound Dan of the Flesh Wound Features podcast, and I am joined by both members of Subjective Perspective Collective, Darren and Dirk. How are you gentlemen doing tonight?
Good to be on again. Just like I always say it, like looking forward to these. And just glad to be a part of all this,
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, man. Can't complain. Got no complaints, and ready to get into these don't films, man. It's an odd little history on that too.
It is. I was going to say, and there's a decent amount of them, and I know people, I think, kind of started to become aware after that Edgar Wright trailer from Grindhouse back in the day, and it's like, oh yeah, there are quite a few that use that title. So everybody ignores the don't in the title. They always do it anyways. So we'll cover all that. So at the end of our show, which I should say is a triple feature tonight, we haven't done that before, so we're going to review 3 don't films. I posed the question to you guys off air. Who do you think is the most disturbing, or your favorite non-supernatural villain or creep, maybe we should say, especially tonight's show? Like who for you just really just got to you because they could exist maybe in real life? I think we want to see you weigh in the comments. Who do you think? Patrick Bateman or somebody like that. Hannibal Lecter, maybe even. I mean, could exist. So weigh in the comments. But we're going to kick things off tonight, as always, with our oldest film of the evening, which is from 1973 and director S.F. Brownrigg, and it is Don't Look in the Basement. So this gory little chiller takes place in an experimental hospital for the criminally insane, where the creative thinking director allows several inmates to act out their psychotic delusions. Like necrophilia, paranoia, and popsicles. Things really start to get nuts when a new staffer arrives, starting with the bloody axe murder of the doctor himself and leading to a total takeover of the hallowed institution by its most crazy and violent inhabitants. All right, so Don't Look in the Basement. So I feel like this is a movie a lot of people own because it's technically considered public domain and has appeared on about 10,000 different 10, 20, even 100 movie sets.
50 packs. Shit.
Yep. Early on, there were, in the early DVD days, this movie was fucking everywhere. It was all over the place. So you might own it and not even know you own it. And it's a regional Texas-based horror film. And it's probably most known back in the day for being a double bill with Last House on the Left in the 1970s. And
at the Grindhouse drive-ins, right?
Yeah, it's a good opener for that. Last House gets a lot more brutal, but this one's like kind of, you get that little bit lighter and build to something. It's a very loose adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's story, The System of Dr. Tar and Professor Feather, which kind of gives some stuff away there. But so first, impressions? Was this a first time watch for Don't Look in the Basement for any of you guys? Whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, for me it was. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was.
So, what did you think? I get a vibe, maybe not super enthusiastic, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't know, man. There's some things that are pretty wrong and kind of weird. Like,
Mhm.
why the hell are you going upstairs when you're trying to? And you've been at this house, like one of the characters. I'm not spoiling, but one of the characters, you've been in this house for several nights now,
Yeah.
and you don't know how to get the hell out of that house, and you going upstairs, and then you go
Right.
down in the basement. Like, I don't know. That's one thing. You can see the whole shit coming from a mile away too. It's pretty easy to work out.
It
So that
is.
when a film does that or a story, it kind of pulls me out of it a little bit. There is some couple parts that I thought was funny, but for the most part, yeah, it's not high on my list, But I will say that the one scene, the axe scene, I guess, reminds me very much of like Friday the 13th Part 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could almost guarantee they might have pulled that from that. So,
Oh, I'm sure they did. I also neglected to say this movie was shot as The Forgotten. It also
Yeah.
played as the Snake Pit,
I
Death Ward
see Death Ward number
13.
3. Is that it?
Uh, yeah, Death Ward 13, I think might have
13.
been the
Okay.
title. Beyond Help was another.
Okay.
So it played all over the world. And I know many of the cast and crew also worked with Larry Buchanan, who was quite the character. And I recommend he has a book out there. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but wild stuff because it's part movie experiences that he had, and then crazy conspiracy theories. He claims to have slept with Marilyn Monroe and
Oh shit.
all the.
You never know though. I mean,
He may have. I mean, she may have
Marilyn Monroe was pretty loose
got
with it.
around.
Yeah.
She
Like
did.
for me, this is a weird one for me because I remember watching this like 20 years ago, like you say, on the public domain,
Yeah.
going into it expecting a slasher by the title,
Mhm.
all these don't films. And I just remembered, it was at the time as well, it was very slow, kind of hard to get through. There's some really interesting things in there because I think some of the characters in that remind me a lot of Alone in the Dark, which was to come out in '82, and you can see
Mhm.
it like for sure on certain characters. But yeah, going back to it, I pretty much had the same feeling. It just kind of was hard to get through. But it's not to say, like Dirk said, there is some moments in there which are really good. The whole build up to the ending, like the last 10, 15 minutes, it really quickens up.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to give anything away, but yeah, it's kind of. I don't think I'll be going back to this one very much, if ever again. To be
Yeah.
honest,
The old lady, she's creepy as hell and kind of got
Yeah.
that you got that trope, like warning somebody, get the hell
Mhm.
out of here kind of
right?
shit.
Yeah,
But the
yeah,
shit
Yeah.
she's saying is weird too. Like, I don't know what she's talking about. But I
Yeah.
mean, this is a crazy house. So,
Yeah,
uh,
they can
yeah,
never
yeah,
just be clear, and that
yeah.
person can never say, "Hey, you're gonna get chopped the fuck up
Yeah.
by this person."
Yeah.
So maybe at
But,
least go spend the night at the Motel 6 down the street, not
but
here.
I got to admit, though, man, I fell asleep 3 times watching this thing. I got to admit that. So, uh,
right.
take it
Yeah,
for
I
what,
It
can. I,
you know.
I can see why it's generally can be unnerving to watch. I can see that because it's so atmospheric, which is another plus, I'd say.
Mhm.
But I can definitely see where Dirk's coming from. But in terms of what was it, 1973? So it's really
Yeah.
like early Grindhouse.
Mhm.
I would put it on, say, a double feature with something, and obviously put it as the first feature, and maybe watch it like that. again, if I ever get the desire to do it, like maybe put Texas Chainsaw Massacre on after it, so you got something good to look forward to, basically. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it was on a double with, like you said, Last House on the Left.
Right, yeah.
It you know,
That
and
will.
this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does kind of feel like a 70s TV movie, of which there were many great ones, with a small smattering of blood and tits. Not a
Yeah.
lot, but like other than that, it really had that vibe of a 70s TV movie. I will say, I think the actors overall, for a small regional Texas horror film, all did a pretty good job. Bill McKee, who plays Sam, he was a kind of a stage actor in the Dallas area. He was also one of the very first black men to get his SAG card. He also a lot of connections to Larry Buchanan in this one. He appeared in the notoriously shitty. If you didn't care for this one, oh boy, he was in Curse of the Swamp Creature from 1968. That's a rough one. He was also in a really just notorious historical blaxploitation flick called Quadroon from 1971. So he did a really good job. I thought he was memorable. All the characters, I think, are good. It's a shame they're not in a better movie. But Harriet, who has the doll that she thinks is a real baby, I think that's an interesting character.
Yeah.
What about the judge talking about to be carnally minded is death?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind
Is
that's the one that kind of reminded me of the Martin Landau character in Alone in the Dark.
Because the
You know,
nympho's trying to come on to him and shit.
Do you actually think though, because I think there's a lot of dark humor in there in this one.
Oh
With
yeah.
all that nympho stuff
definitely.
and yeah, because it's kind of a weird vibe, because obviously it is unsettling, it is grindhouse,
You
but there
do
is
get
some black humor, yeah.
Mhm.
You do get a head crushed in a suitcase, so
Yeah.
which is okay. But
I like asylum themed horror and asylum themed movies in general. I always find it interesting. Especially around this time, because they were really just starting to clean some of those places up in the late 60s. This movie's a little bit padded, and as you guys were saying, even in 1973, I feel like the twist is pretty obvious.
it is.
And they don't fully capitalize on the basement, because you get to the basement, then it's just kind of over.
Things that are convoluted. I will say that I did laugh out loud when the nympho chick, what's her name, Allison. She's like, I do taste like strawberries, and like disrobed, she's fully naked and shit. She's like telling the guy to taste her and shit. I was like, okay. I had a chuckle at that, but
I think all the ingredients were here with this one. I kind of like it, even though I again recognize it's not great. It was popular enough. The director's son, Tony Brownrigg, actually made Don't Look in the Basement 2 in 2015, I believe. So over 40 years later. And it does continue the story. So if you're interested to check that out, I don't remember a lot about it, to be perfectly honest, but I do remember it was a direct continuation, and it also has some of the same actors in it. So that might be reason enough to give it a look.
I know this director also did.
Mm-hmm.
Go on, Dirk. Sorry.
Go ahead. Oh, I was saying this director, he also did Poor White Trash.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I was going to mention. That was called Don't Open the Window, wasn't it? I think.
Don't Open the Door. I think.
Don't Open the Door, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't Open the Door. Keep My Grave Open.
You can get that on a double feature from VCI, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, Don't Open the
And none of these I've seen. Thinking Big. What the hell is that? I don't know what that is either.
I like regional horror movies. I mean, we talked about it on our last show, the Sasquatch show.
Yeah.
There's a certain flavor to it. They're not always great by any means, but they have their own distinct vibes, and I tend to enjoy that.
Yeah, you can tell like some of them, like Silent Rage, that's filmed in Dallas. You can I don't know why, but I can tell that it's kind of in Texas. You know, like
yeah. We should point out actually another notable cast member, which in this there's not a lot. A lot of these people are just locals, but 1972 Playboy centerfold Rosie Holitic is in this as Charlotte the nurse, and she also did Horror High and the horror anthology Encounter with the Unknown. Very beautiful girl. Had a little bit of a run. She's also solid in this. Overall, there's some logic issues. It's easy to predict. But I'm going to say, unfortunately, more on the average side of things, but still, I think worth checking out if you like these kinds of films. And
how would you rate it out of 10?
I'm very generous in giving it a 5.
Okay. I can see that. Yeah, I would personally. I'd give it a 3. It hasn't changed in like 20 years. So
okay.
Okay. Well, I'm giving it a 2, y'all. I mean, I really gotta give it a 2. So
see, I can see that as well. So
it's just it was a snore fest for me, man. I just couldn't. I had to keep rewinding the shit when I'd wake up, and I was like, "Oh man, what the shit?" And usually I could watch any damn thing, but
yeah. Did you guys like the demented Carrot Top that was running around torturing everybody?
No, he kind of get on my nerves too.
Yeah.
I think all the characters, like Dan said, are really good. It's just like you say, it's just low budget. It happens to be not make a great movie, but some of the characters are funny. I don't know if that was intended.
I mean, I like the nympho chick.
Yeah. Especially all that stuff with the handyman who comes out. I think the phone guy is it, and all that.
I just don't think there's enough there.
Yeah. I was going to say there is some stuff in there. It's not a complete write-off, I don't think, by a long way. But you've got to be in that mindset. And I would imagine watching this back in the early 70s in a grindhouse as well would have given it a little bit. I think I would have Drive-In would have been a better experience rather than on a HD TV, and what have you. But I don't know. I wouldn't recommend it, but
yeah.
It's also one of those weird ones that managed to be a video nasty somehow, some way.
I know. What's all that about, man?
Yeah. It's not. It didn't get the DPP list, though, right?
No. But it, just the fact that it would have been in that conversation at all is so ridiculous. But
it's got to be because of the axe scene, probably, because they really went against tools,
any kind of household tools.
Yeah. I would imagine that has got to be it.
Yeah, so just shoot people in the head. God damn it! No,
you'd be all right.
All right. So moving on, I think we'll probably be more positive on the next movie, but you never know. We'll see. But our next film that we are covering tonight is the 1979, or also listed at 1980, film that Dirk's holding up right there from Severin. Don't Go in the House.
This is the one I got.
Oh, nice.
I got that one as well.
Yeah.
I'm a massive mark for this film.
There you go. I was going to say.
You only need the one, though, from what I know.
On this one, though, Dirk, you do get 3 discs, and you do get an extra version. You get a Video Nasties version of it.
Yeah. Stacked with extras. And this is from director Joseph Ellison.
Only 2.
Yeah. Sorry. Oh, no, that's okay. So in this movie, a shy incinerator worker, uh, scarred by memories of his mother's abuse, begins luring women to his childhood home for for incendiary torment, including one of the most shocking, notorious scenes in sleaze horror history. So yes, don't go in the house. Very, very different from our previous film. Actually, different from our film that's closing tonight too.
Oh yeah.
Similar, but also very different. It originally began its life under an original script, The Burning Man by Joseph Masefield. It was also known as The Burning at one point, but that was kind of given the axe because of The Burning we all know and love that was coming out, although the years on that don't quite add up, which is interesting. But yeah, so before I ramble on too much about it, because I think we're all going to be big fans of this one, whoever wants to go first on this one, because I do love it. I do love this one a lot.
Go ahead, Darren.
Right, so this one, yeah, obviously I got to know this one on the Video Nasties list. I can remember one of my mates like bringing over the video. I think it was the 90s though, until I got to see it properly. And I just fell in love with it the first time I seen it. I mean, it's just really dark. Again, you have got some kind of comedic, and I think they were intentional, but there is some comedy in there, you know.
Oh yeah.
Really dark comedy though. But for me, yeah, this is probably in my top 10, so maybe top 5 slasher films of all time. I regard it up there with the likes of The Burning, My Bloody Valentine. It's kind of, you know, almost on that level. Yeah, like you say, I don't know if you want to go into certain scenes later on, but I just love,
Definitely.
you know, the whole disco scene. You got the disco kind of soundtrack, which is kind of different for a slasher film at the time. And this came before most of the big ones, didn't it? So this obviously came before Friday the 13th, I think.
Yeah.
And the guy that I will say, the lead guy as well, Dan Grimaldi,
Yeah.
absolutely outstanding job. Because I know he was having trouble because this is his film, and I think he was saying to the director that he wasn't sure whether his performance was coming across very well, because he was quite edgy and you know, had anxiety about this being, you know, his first real big film. And they kind of put him at ease with that. I think he knocks it out the park.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my initial thoughts, but I'm sure we'll come on and say more.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because he wasn't a fan of horror, and he
No.
was
Right. Yeah.
So this is Dan Grimaldi. He wasn't a fan of horror. He said when I think he was 8 years old, he watched Dracula and Frankenstein and had nightmares for a year afterwards. So he wasn't a fan of the genre at all. But he was like a stage actor in I think on Broadway, right? He was doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe that's
Yeah.
right.
He was starring in a play called Mama's Little Angels off Broadway, and
that's right.
was offered the role because the director and his wife, who's also producer, they just loved him, and yeah, they cast him. Yeah.
But he's better known to most people probably because of The Sopranos. He was on 47 episodes of The Sopranos, and he was a soldier for Tony Soprano. You see him like counting up the money. He was like an extortion guy. Anyway, I won't go too deep into that, but that's what I really know him for. So
great show. If you guys out there haven't watched it, Sopranos is fantastic.
Yeah, that's my favorite show all the time. But
yeah,
I always like don't go in the house, man. It's a way different. Like it's for me though, like it's got all the slasher elements, but I've always felt like it's not really a slasher, like because of what's happening. Like it's like an arsonist. I don't know. Like I don't know what you would, but it's just like a slasher, except the way that he's killing, you know. and it's got the huge nods to Psycho, big time. The house is a character in itself. It's really, I know it was in disrepairs and everything during the making, so everything's shot on location. It was a 3-story house. I mean, I think the people living there was completely cool. They were like, where they were at on the 3rd floor was heated, and the other 2 floors, it was like 5 degrees on the other 2 floors.
The Straits Mansion, I think it's called. Even today, I think you can go there today, and they up until recently they used to actually show the film there as well.
Unfortunately, they don't anymore. The Levi Strauss Mansion. It's an iconic New Jersey, the Atlantic Highlands of New Jersey, I believe.
Right.
I actually have to ask Lauren if he's been there.
I was going to say that because it can't be too far from where Lorne is.
It's probably close. Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask him.
But it's rumored to be haunted as well. That people have said they've seen ghosts as far back as they can remember. That even up to present day.
They said they would hear voices, the homeowners or whatever.
Do you think though with this film? I think to say it's a lot like Psycho for me. I think it like understates the film a bit. I think it's a lot better than it shouldn't really be compared to Psycho in my eyes. I can see why, but I kind of think people maybe have not given it a fair go because of that. I think as an outright film.
It's way different, but I'm saying it's definitely got the homage to Psycho. I think it does its own thing, surely though.
Well, and also that portion is kind of out there front and center at the beginning of the movie. So, it's
not shot for shot like Psycho by no means, but as far as the whole abuse angle and shit like that.
The house is probably a main thing.
I could pitch it as a grindhouse Psycho. I think that's a good way to kind of pitch this to somebody who hasn't seen it yet.
A lot more sleazier.
Lot more, lot more sleazy. And you say like the slasher argument, of course, like I would still kind of lump it in. Actually, our last film tonight, there's a lot of people that would argue is not a true slasher flick, which we'll get into that one as well. But I would say, it's kind of a psychological character study. It's a damn good one, in my opinion. Dan Grimaldi. Dan Grimaldi's very realistic. I think the Donnie Kohler character is much more sympathetic than a Frank Zito from Maniac. He's very childlike, and you kind of get this vibe that it's not too late for him. It is perhaps by the end of the movie, but he does kind of have that childlike quality, doesn't want to be how he is, while like our third film tonight, like that dude that shit failed. He's a piece of shit.
He's just out there, buddy.
With this character, Donnie, you kind of like you say, you're sympathetic towards him. It's not like one of these big, huge slashing villains who you hate. I kind of like the guy, but that's me, I suppose.
You do feel for him. I mean, we have those flashback scenes where his mom is like burning his hands on a stove, which also a taboo. We didn't see children in particular getting hurt in movies like this back then.
That's why I made the list.
You can see why this one would have. Not that list ever made sense, but you could see why this would have. And the thing about this one to me, and people have said this about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I couldn't agree more. You feel the cold in this movie, like you felt the heat and the sweat pouring off people in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The location is almost a character in the movie, and it was 5 degrees, I think they said, in the house while they were shooting this. You could just sort of in your head feel the hell that these characters were living through. And we have to say, I think one of the most iconic kills of all time, the flamethrower scene in the metal room, it's just so cruel, and it's also suspenseful how they lead up to it, and just yeah, man, just the director said, like, from his vantage point while they were making that, he said he's looking and it feels like she's actually on fire. Like he said it was to the point where he almost freaked out because it's like
It's a
she's
great effect, though, I think,
yeah.
man. And I wanted to ask y'all something, though. Like, so when the film starts, do you think that he put that can in the furnace?
Oh, interesting.
Because I got to thinking about it this time. You know, he's got those voices.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
ambiguous too, right? But I've always interpreted it that they could be demons.
It is kind of open to that.
Right.
You know, the
Because
ending.
especially when you see the end, you know.
Yeah, the ending could be leading towards that. I'm kind of glad there wasn't a sequel to this because I do
Right.
think it would have gone more a popcorn
Yeah, I wouldn't. I
horror
don't.
route.
I think it's
Yeah.
great. It's a one-off for sure.
I think so
Yeah.
too. It might have been a really good movie, the sequel, with, you know, somebody else, but then I'm like, sometimes it's better to just you hit a home run, stop. You're good,
It's
just
the
stop.
same with Amazing the Damaged Brain as well. You've got a
Yeah,
very kind of similar ending in a way, which I won't give away. But
Yeah, kind of.
it wouldn't have
Yeah.
worked with another character, I don't think. I mean, Donnie's just this one-off. I think that's
Right.
why I think this film is so successful because
But
it's grown like a cult following. Sorry, Dirk, go on.
no, you're
yeah.
good. I'm sorry, man. I wouldn't try to
No,
cut
no,
you
no,
off.
no, no worries, man.
The reason I think the way I think that they're demons
Mhm.
is because you notice the scene where you see his mother, right?
Mhm.
Right.
We see as an audience, we see his mother. She's all charred and she's looking all crazy. He don't see her at all
Yeah, that's
when he
true.
walks right by her, you know. And then throughout the film, these voices and shit. But you know, it could be he's just crazy. It's pretty ambiguous in that way, you know. But
Yeah,
I
it is.
appreciate that though. It kind of leaves it open. It don't explain it.
Yeah.
Leaves it up to you to decide. So
I think too with this movie, I like that it doesn't fall into the popcorn horror trend that was set right after this movie by Friday the 13th as far as slashers go. This doesn't have the final girl trope.
no.
Uh, it's funny when you go back and watch some of these movies, you know, this feels fresher even though it's older because, you know, it didn't just kind of check every box that a lot of these slashers did in the post Friday the 13th wave, especially.
Right, it's weird you should say that, right? Because when this film came out, it was in the cinemas the same time as Friday the 13th. So what the director did, he went in and he watched like a screening of this, and then he kind of went in and watched Friday the 13th to compare. And he said that you couldn't have got two more different audiences. Friday the 13th, they're jumping up and down, they're throwing their popcorn. Like in
Yeah.
this one, he said they were just dead silent. He said, I didn't know what to make, like whether they liked it, they were just dead silent. And yeah, it's dark. This is pretty dark.
It
You
is.
know?
It really goes some dark places. But man, of all places for this damn movie to open, Honolulu, Hawaii. Like that's just insane to think. Like that's where it first opened at. Like it just is so odd to me.
Oh, yeah. No,
Yeah.
ironic considering, yeah, the rest of it, you could just feel that New
The
Jersey
cold.
winter.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
the whole I like the contrast though, like you're saying, how it's so cold, but like in his mind, he's like he's getting rid of their sin, right? With the flames, covering them with
Yeah.
flames and
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
Because
And
he's been fucked up, you know. His mom fucked his head
right.
up. But
Yeah.
Wow.
And the thing I said with the dark humor as well, because there's a line that his mate Bobby comes out and he said, and he's basically lined up these two girls to go to a disco in the night, and he goes, "Man, they're dynamite." And that comes up again, I think, with the salesman who's selling him the suit, and he says,
Yeah.
about, you know, the word dynamite comes up, and it's there if you see it, you know. But yeah, I kind of had a bit of a giggle to that. But that scene in the nightclub for me is one of the best, unintentionally funny sort of moments ever. And it works in the horror aspect as well, you know, because it is
Oh, yeah.
horrifying, but then you see the dark humor behind it as well, and it's kind of funny. But yeah, it's weird, man.
I showed like the scene. There's a scene where you see burnt corpses. That's all I'll say. I'll be vague about it.
Yeah.
I told my 7-year-old, come check this out, and he walked in there, looked for a second. He was like, "That's creepy," and he walked out. Like, he's like, he wasn't a part of that shit. So, a lot of people probably be like, "Damn, you're wrong for that," but I don't know. I grew up watching shit, so whatever.
Yeah, I think it's better to see some stuff early so you're not afraid of everything when you're older. I think it works better.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, just Tone, the central performance is fantastic. Donnie Kohler should be a character name that we discuss, like we discussed Jason Voorhees and Frank Zito.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the better films to hold the Don't title. Maybe Don't Look Now would fall under the best Don't film, but this is right at the top of the list. And
yeah, for sure, no doubt about it.
It's not just another slasher, and that's something that I like. I love slasher films. Don't get me wrong. I like so dumb different slasher films, but I appreciate something like this that goes a little bit deeper.
Right. The way that people are getting killed is way different. Like, you know, when I think of slashers, I think of stabbing weapons and you know, shit like that. But it's definitely in that same vein, like y'all said. I know I'm not trying to retread old ground, but I know Grimaldi though said that he did a lot of heavy research into the characteristics of abused people. So he would go to meetings and sit and talk with them and of people that had, you know, had to go through abuse. So this is a hard, especially at the end of the film. That's one of the hardest scenes to me to see that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's very real and it's really happening. I mean, I don't mean to go there and make it all serious, but it's there and it's a big possibility why, you know, that and the burning of the hands over the stove.
Oh, yeah.
Several other things. I know when I see how awkward he is with females, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, very awkward to say the least.
Yeah, part of me wants to jump in the screen and slap the shit out of this guy because it's like these women are beautiful, but like then I know also the other side that
no, he's just gone.
Right.
Do you think William Lustig seen this before making Maniac? I'm not sure whether they come out at a similar time because there's that supernatural twist in both. Really, that's very similar.
I've met him several times. I guess I could say I know him. I don't know him well, but he was all around. He was a legit fan. He saw everything. So I'm not quite sure how close this was as far as release, but he very well almost certainly saw this at the theater.
It's in the same vein.
Yeah, so I'm sure. I know the director, and this would have been a fun moment of levity. He said he regretted not getting the rights to Burn Baby Burn for the disco.
Oh man,
yeah, that would have been great.
That's a missed opportunity. Yeah,
it really was. Yeah.
But I do like the two disco songs in this as well, though.
They're great,
really catchy, and you wouldn't think they'd go with like a film like this, but it seems to kind of work. Weirdly enough, but it does. Yeah,
it does. And we also have kind of a theme of Playboy Playmates tonight because Joanna Brusche, she was a Playboy model, and she was in the iconic flamethrower scene in the metal room. And just like I said, I think one of the great horror sequences out there, from just the build up to just
And
the
they didn't have
look.
much of a budget, and it looks very. I mean, it still looks really good, like effective. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
They were shooting this on just far out of date uh, materials, film materials, cameras. They did this movie under extremely difficult circumstances. It was insanely cold. When you look at the incinerator plant, like they said, that was just frigid. Yeah, there's nothing fake about it. Like, and I think that's really evident. This 70s, early 80s, just realism that comes out on screen is just amazing. And like I said, above all else, call it a slasher, that's fine, but it's really just a captivating and disturbing character study. And
Yeah,
Dan Grimaldi is somebody who very well, if he had gotten different roles, could have been a Robert De Niro or Al Pacino. I think he had the chops, but what he has done in his career has been very memorable.
yeah.
Once again, Sopranos, some of the best television ever. And
So
yeah.
the full uncut version of this didn't come out like for everyone to see until 2011.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
Yes,
kind of
yeah,
crazy to think, like took
I,
that long. So
yeah, and that's the thing we got to remember too. This movie's still gaining new fans. I know the scene where he kisses the corpse. I know that was one that was
yeah.
missing.
I just seen the
Uh,
difference. I could tell the differences again when I watched it
mm,
earlier.
yeah,
Um, I don't know. I'm kind of like prefer the theatrical cut because that's how I kind of grew up watching it. But
yeah.
it's
mhm.
nice to have that anyway.
That's the one
But
that I watched this time.
yeah,
So
yeah, it
just
kind of
because I figured
pads
that's
it
what
out a
we're.
little bit. I'd say the longer
Yeah.
version, but yeah, it's each to their own, really.
Well, have y'all ever watched the TV version though? So there is the TV version on this disc too, but
Yeah.
I didn't bother. I have never bothered with it, so I don't know.
It's tough with some of those because, like, I have seen it, but it would have been so long ago that I'm just used to the uncut version now. I
Yeah,
do remember the kissing the corpse was one of the big ones, and obviously, assuming the flamethrower scene had some heavy edits in that
and some of
version.
that shit. I mean, a lot of that was real, man. Like from the way he
Yeah,
described it, he was saying that there's a scene where there's fire everywhere.
yeah,
That shit was real. That was real fire
Yeah,
all
yeah,
around
A-
him and
yeah.
shit. So
and it wouldn't be filmed like that
no,
today.
hell no.
Um, I mean, I'm sure the safety violations on this movie had to be off the charts.
Yeah, and the people that let them use the house, like I bet they
Right.
had no
Yeah.
idea. Like,
Oh, I'm sure. Like, don't worry, we're gonna cover it in metal and just shoot a flamethrower off in your house.
yeah,
Whew, just yeah,
Like the
crazy.
initial reviews to this were bad as well, everywhere. Like all the reviews were bad when it came out. The initial
Yeah,
reaction was bad.
mhm.
Um, and it's just kind of like steadily got this cult kind of
It's
status
definitely
over
not
the
of its
years.
time, though.
no,
It's
I think,
like Dirk said, it's completely one on its own. Like there's nothing that comes close to it, really.
yeah,
And never will be probably.
I can't think of
Yeah, yeah.
another arsonist, serial killer type flick
Not
like
to
this,
that level, no, no.
no,
because that
no.
hood, I mean, it just looks like you don't. I mean, when you see that image of that whole suit and him in that hood, and it's
Yeah,
just so cold, but he's got the fire. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
It's something to that.
I do. If you like this movie, and I don't know if it's still in print, but Severin, I'm pretty sure it was the Severin store, or it had to be because they distributed the Blu-ray.
Yeah,
There is a T-shirt with him in that suit with the flamethrower. It's a
yeah,
really, really cool shirt. I have it. If I don't have it on at the moment, or I'd show it, but
yeah.
very nice shirt. The next Severin sale in July. You guys will have to
I
grab that.
actually thought about grabbing it one time. Yeah, so
Yeah, it's worth it. It fills out the whole. I'm somebody, I like my shirt to be filled out with the image, so
yeah,
uh it's really cool. And yeah, I think some of the greats, like, again, I like a lot of dumb slashers, but this makes you feel something. It makes you feel uncomfortable. And Donnie Kohler, like, we've all probably crossed paths with the Donnie Kohler and didn't know it. So,
Oh yeah, man, no doubt about
Yeah.
it. I definitely want to convey that this is not, like I've said, it's got the homages to Psycho, but a far different movie. I just want to make that clear.
oh, absolutely.
So nobody
absolutely.
gets me a misunderstood.
This was a time too where serial killers were just really in the public consciousness, and
Mhm.
I think that's really, at the end of the day, the scariest thing. So, what do we rate this one, gentlemen?
Go ahead, Darren.
So for me, this is a high 9.5 out of 10. Like I said earlier, I don't want to, reiterate my point, but I just love this film. It's
Yeah.
it's a masterclass of, like, really dark kind of one-off type thing. You'll never see it anywhere else again like this. But yeah, I'll give it a 9.5.
Okay. I'm gonna go probably a 9. 9 out
Okay.
of 10. Solid 9. Yeah.
I
And
wanted.
it's good. I mean, I can watch it and never get bored with it. I can watch it at least
Right.
once a year,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I can't say that the same about a lot of these types of movies, but this one does have a lot more going on. I almost want to give it a 10. I'll give it a 9.52, but it is fantastic. I do consider it a classic of the genre, and I hope you guys, if you haven't checked it out there, please do. It's easy to kind of get these don't movies mixed up too. So, because I'll recommend some of these films and they're like, I think I saw that and I didn't like it. And I was like, no, you watched Don't Go Near the Park, or you watched something else.
don't look out the
Right.
window.
Yeah. You watched some, you don't be a menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood.
Yeah.
But this is one of the good ones. So Don't Look Now. Don't go in the house. Check those out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Top tier.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Now, this next one, I'm kind of curious
Yeah.
to get your guys' thoughts. Very, very different. It also falls under the Don't films, and it is from 1980 and director Robert Hammer. Don't Answer the Phone. And now I know technically, I believe this came out technically like right before our last movie, but again, people list this as 1980 and list the others 1979. So if you correct us in the comments, we know. And yeah, that's the Vinegar Syndrome version that I got.
Nice, man. Yeah.
And so once again, 1980, director Robert Hammer. And in this film, Vietnam vet Kirk Smith spends his days photographing pretty girls. He spends his nights strangling them with LAP. He's, multitasks. With the LAPD baffled by what seems to be a series of random killings, radio psychiatrist Lindsay Gale begins receiving menacing calls from Smith, who then sets his murderous sights on her patients and soon Gale herself. One-time director Robert Hammer's gripping and suspenseful early slasher Don't Answer the Phone blends unnerving psychological drama with brutal violence, complemented by a career performance from Nicholas Worth.
Oh yeah.
All right, Don't Answer the Phone. So at this time, the original working title for this one was Hollywood Strangler, and it was going to be loosely based on the Hillside Strangler killings at the time, which the killers were still loose at that time. And I do want to say on the Hillside Strangler is a really good movie. It just called Hillside Strangler, starring C. Thomas Howell, for you true crime aficionados out there. Really good movie, not entirely accurate like most of those films, but and look for the unrated cut of that, because there is an R in unrated DVD. But yeah, this is how that one began its life. The producer didn't really want to have this movie connected to those killings, and it was based on a script called Nightline by Michael Curtis, a screenplay that the director had bought, but they couldn't afford to shoot that movie. So it was rewritten, and that script basically doesn't resemble this one much at all. I should lead with this is a Crowne International Pictures release. I think this is the first Crowne title we've covered on the show, but I'm sure you'll see a lot of Crowne titles in the future. And was a relatively big hit at the time, which is also shocking that this is a one and done director. But we really have to talk about Nicholas Worth.
Oh yeah.
Who?
Oh god, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'll have to be a little vague on this, but I knew somebody in real life that is like a dead ringer. Didn't kill anybody as far as I know, but
I know the guy you're on about because I felt exactly the same way. If it's the guy I'm on about, the usage of streams, yeah, he looks exactly like him, man.
It's somebody that used to be on YouTube.
That's an in-joke anyway. Most people know. Yeah.
But yeah, like kind of a Nicholas Worth's a little bit more intimidating, but knew somebody that kind of really just acted and was very similar to this guy. And
to Nicholas Worth or to Kurt?
To Kirk.
Okay.
To Kirk, yeah. Nicholas Worth, from all accounts, was a lovely individual, very easy to get along with. Before we get into the movie, let's run down some of the cast on this one because there's some slightly more notable names. Nicholas Worth, he really often played the goon. That was kind of like he was the go-to character actor for that. He was in Darkman for Sam Raimi. Yeah, really good in that.
That's a great when he's, because it's in Darkman, he's like freaking out. That shit. That shit cracks me up when I see that. But yeah,
I'm not a superhero fan in general. That's just not my thing. But I love Darkman. I think Darkman's fantastic.
I've always dug it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and he was in some movie called The Glove from 1979. And he's got he plays somebody, a gay guy in a bikini, and he has a fucking fight scene with John Saxon.
I'm sold on that, man.
If you get a chance to watch it, it's actually quite funny. That
he said they beat the shit out of him though. Like he did all his own stunts in that. And he was a Shakespearean actor too. Which is crazy.
He was. Yeah. He was. He had an interesting life because he was also a veteran, kind of a legit badass.
Green Beret. Fucking a paratrooper. Fucking 101st Airborne and shit. Paratrooper Ranger.
He had an interesting life if you kind of dive into it. I don't think there's any book on him, but he was also in 2 Full Moon movies, which even if you're not a Full Moon fan, I would say they're 2 of the more interesting Full Moon titles. He did Dark Angel, The Ascent, which I think is a very good movie. He did Blood Dolls, a very weird film that I love. It just perfect example of that late 90s Charles Band weirdness that really hit for me at the time. Hell Comes to Frogtown, Action Jackson. He was in Swamp Thing.
He was the butler in Action Jackson.
He was always memorable. Some of these were small roles. He was in Invitation to Hell, Barbed Wire, Circuitry Man 2, Hologram Man. Just some wonderful, a lot of B movies, but when I go down his filmography, I'm like, man, I like most of the stuff he was in. There's not a lot of crap. You look at somebody like a Robert Zadar, and it's like the lows of his career, very, very low.
But when you see this character, knowing what you know about this guy and the real guy, you're just like, what the hell, like, because he incorporated a lot of that into this character, like as far as him being in the military background that he had. He very much, he chose the wardrobe for this character. Like
he did. Yeah. He wasn't like super enthusiastic about the movie, so he kind of was able to add in a lot of his stuff, and
he rewrote his lines and shit. So
He did, and I think that Byron Alred score in this one adds a lot. It's very not the most musically inclined guy, so it's hard to put it into words, but it just really sort of captured this guy's essence, I think.
Yeah.
When
Yeah,
he's
because as
just
soon as the film
yeah,
starts, you see this sweaty son of a bitch with the
yeah,
pantyhose and like
yeah.
around his neck, and he's all sweaty in front of like this huge, like it looks like a huge crucifix in a mirror and shit, and he's sniffing the air like he's happy. I don't know, it's fucking crazy, but uh,
Yeah, no, you nailed it as far as just sweaty.
yeah,
Is like if I had
yeah,
one word to describe Kirk, it would be sweaty. He just looks like a guy that's just always pouring sweat. This is another one too that I feel like a first impression of it might be very different if you got the Rhino Entertainment DVD back in the day, because that was significantly cut. And this is a movie too where we're not dealing with the sort of intense realism of don't go in the house. This is, this one's a little bit more all over the place as far as the tone goes.
serial killer type.
Yeah,
But then it's got some crazy, and I mean pitch black
Yeah.
humor. It
Yeah.
is like, I mean,
Yeah.
not everybody's gonna laugh, but maybe I'm just sick
Mhm.
and twisted. But especially like when the film opens, like the first victim, right?
Yeah.
I mean, did
Yeah.
y'all laugh at that scene? Like, I don't know.
Oh,
I'm
Yeah.
not talking about the whole scene. I'm talking about the phone part. Like,
yeah. The
Yeah.
the humor hit for me.
yeah,
I'll be honest.
Yeah.
right.
I could see a lot of you out there that might watch this movie and think, "Oh God, this doesn't work."
Right.
This was another one that was that was a video nasty. Oddly enough, this one was not prosecuted for obscenity. It was
Yeah, it didn't make the DPP, which is
which this one I could see, like, because
Yeah. Yeah.
This-
Yeah. Very strange.
no
If you
rhyme or
wanted-
reason, right? I don't know.
if you wanted to make a point, like, there's no doubt misogyny is running wild in this one.
No
So
shit, man. It's like they threw all the titles up on like this huge dartboard and threw darts
Yeah.
at them and shit. Like,
oh yeah,
I don't know.
the killer is always makes sure to expose the girl's tits before he kills her in this.
Yeah,
one.
he's got and he's a necrophiliac.
He is.
Yeah,
That's what makes him more real, though. This is probably what more realistic out of all the slashes you'll find.
yeah,
Just
Mhm.
those little things, like you say, he rips open their tops, and
Mhm.
but you've got the whole opening as well, which kind of gives you like with the religious aspect as well. Is really creepy, like Silence
Yeah.
of the Lambs type feel.
And he's
I don't know,
always
it's
like,
really weird.
yeah, and he's always seeking approval and looking up, like he's talking to his
Yeah,
dad,
yeah,
stepdad or dad, and
Yeah.
he's like that scene. Y'all know what scene I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Dad, did I measure up? Up, and hitting his chest and shit.
Yeah, very arrogant and
Got a beer, you know. Got his
yeah.
jeans over his belly button with a
He
beer
kinda-
gut and a power lifter, you know. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, kind of doing the Abdullah the Butcher look, kind of.
Right.
Which,
Yeah,
But it's like what Dan said earlier. Like some people don't regard this as a slasher. I'd
Mhm.
like to know both of your points of view, because I do. I think it's
I mean-
almost like a blueprint slasher to me.
It's mostly because he's not hacking people.
he's not.
up.
There's no stabbing.
Yeah.
No stabbing.
Okay, yeah,
weapons,
yeah.
I guess is why it has
Would you
all
both
the elements.
regard it as one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Would
It
you
has all the
regard it as
elements
one?
of a slasher for sure.
Right.
It's
okay.
just
Mm.
Yeah.
there's no stabbing weapons happening. You know, like
Yeah.
that's, you know, I guess that's for purists. You know, like
Yeah,
you know,
it's just
but-
it's like a serial killer offing women one by one. It's a slasher
Yeah.
to me. Always will be.
It's probably more a slasher than the last film, which obviously we all loved. Because this one I wouldn't say is like we're not going deep into this character's psyche. We're just seeing him as he is, doing his crazy fucking shit.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
And
the whole Hispanic. He's in
Ramon.
impersonating a Hispanic to somebody on the radio, which by the way, like, I guess you could like pick the shit apart if you wanted to, but a film like this, you know what you're getting. There's no reason to pick it apart.
No.
That always cracks me up when I see it in these movies, though, where they call the radio station and get through on the first ring, to talk to the people. Like
I don't know, Darren. It may not have been a thing in the UK, and I don't know if in Louisiana they had it, but I used to be a big fan of Loveline. I don't know if anybody remembers that. You may have seen it on MTV because it was a show too. And I
remember back in the day on MTV, had the dial MTV, and you couldn't get through for shit.
No, I did get through to the radio show once. So, and that was after trying a lot. So yeah, it wasn't usually that easy, but but yeah, no.
Local stations I couldn't hardly get through if I was trying to request a song on the radio. So
if you keep
they did
trying,
all that stuff with like Cycle 4 as well. They did that, didn't they? When he phones into the radio station. But I think that with this one. With this one, it's more to do with like Nightline. What Dan said is the story it was based off. I think they only kept like 20% of that story in this film. But yeah, I mean, this is really grimy. This is like you want to have a shower after watching it. I know a lot of people say that, but yeah.
I didn't write the actress's name, the first victim, but supposedly she complained, said that he bit her nipple.
Yeah.
And he said he didn't bite her nipple to make it to clear his name, But,
he's method. He might have bit her titty, possibly.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff going on with the cast as well, because two of the main members of the cast, I think, is Flo Lawrence was one of them, and James West. They hated each other on set apparently, and they're playing kind of love interest in this as well. Because when they had to do the kissing scene, apparently she just covered her mouth in garlic. I think he got his own back in another scene as well. It's like really bizarre. But they generally hated each other. The director had to, keep them apart at all times, basically.
You can see it, I think, a little bit too.
Yeah. I think so.
Maybe it's because I've acted a few times, if you want to call it that. But it's like I can see that those two don't like each other from their body language. And you were just touching on, this is one of the worst movies you could show somebody with a 2024 state of mind. Let's just
definitely, especially the mirror scene.
Oh, it checks every box from him doing the stereotypical voice as Ramon to probably one of the nastier scenes when he's starts talking to the one abused woman as her dad.
Oh,
yeah.
That is so dark as hell, and there's nothing funny about that. Like that's no dark humor there. That's just dark as hell. Like
right. So the first time I kind of knew about this film, I'd seen the trailer because there's a very famous trailer. It's kind of ironic, but the director was talking about, because someone asked the director about the Siskel and Ebert. They done this Women in Danger special, and this was heavily included. And he had no idea, the director, but he said it's like Siskel and Ebert. If they put your film out there, rather than putting people off watching it, it's just going to attract viewers. And they say all those slasher films that they basically shit on, like got more notoriety about them because people were just tuning into what they wanted to watch them to see what it was all about. Which I thought was funny.
Yeah, they used clips from this to shit on the genre as a whole. And I mean, such a weird time too. I mean, Gene Siskel actually had people writing and essentially threatening Betsy Palmer, of all people.
Giving her a dress out, I think it was as well.
He did.
It's just crazy, absolutely crazy.
That's insane. I hate to keep going back, but I skipped it.
Go for it.
You notice we're going back to the opening scene again on the phone. when the nurse is on the phone.
Yeah.
Don't it sound like she's supposed to be talking to her mom? But I swear to God, her mom sounds like a dude.
It's a man. It's a man's
Right.
voice.
Right.
Yeah, they didn't even try and cover that.
Right.
And you're right. You know, it's a sick film, but there's a lot of comedy in it. And again, for me, it kind of hits like when the psychic, the two cops together, and we'll talk about the actors here in a little bit. But
the psychic thing,
the psychic, and then he's just, you're going over this serious scene where he's describing the
Everything.
sexual assault and murder of this woman, and then he's just like the line like, read him his rights and book him. He knows too much.
Yeah, and it's like, hold
wow,
up, man, what the hell?
This is an odd time for a joke. But it kind of works. I mean, and again, maybe that's just being a fan of films from this era, because I mean, we referenced Last House on the Left earlier, but we have a whole comedy subplot with the dorky cops running around, and it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, but it works. It's funny. And the lab technician in this one, who's also was in several Crowne sex comedies, which Crowne International was really known for a lot of their sex comedies. And he's asked, did you get a shot of that breast? And it's like, which one? She's got two, you know?
Oh, yeah. Shit like that. And he's just, I mean, there's a dead body right there. Like,
yeah.
I mean, the scene when he's with the blonde as well, when he like cons his way to get into that blonde's apartment, and because after a while, she like basically when he, she finds out what he's really, intended to do, another naked girl comes running out, and apparently they were going to do 4 in that scene, but the director thought, oh no, that's going to be too much, like, but then the killer makes like a really basic mistake as well by leaving. I think it's his camera.
His camera.
Yeah, and they're meticulous, serial killers. But I mean, what a performance, man. I know you touched on it earlier.
And what about the mental mind games he's playing with the Dr. Gale, right?
Yeah.
And she's like talking to him about did he have a puppy and shit? And he like plays into it, like he's like, yeah, and he's getting all emotional, and he's like, I strangled it and broke its fucking neck.
Right, yeah.
Because it shit on my grandmother's Oriental rug.
Yeah. And you don't see that line coming either. It's just like, I mean, the way he cries as well, and he like, it's just an amazing performance, man.
It's insanity. To extreme,
But what's so I was gonna say, so the coin I take is Vietnamese coin he uses with the stocking strangling.
It's a Viet Cong technique, is what it is. Like,
okay, so is it like a tourniquet technique?
They puts the coin there, and he can control.
Right,
it's actually the coin strangling them with the
yeah. That kind of makes it unique as well.
Definitely
the way he murders people. Yeah,
right, for sure.
Yeah, it's an actual method that was used, and once again, I mean, he did, when he read this, and there's old interviews with them. He passed in 2007, so he's been gone a long time. But he really tried to improve and give his character as many layers as he could. There's a lot of things, like, this isn't a movie I recommend to everyone, because you could make a fair argument.
If you're sensitive, just stay away.
If you're sensitive, stay away, because it tackles every trigger warning you could imagine. The tone is uneven at times. Now, again, I like some of the comedy in here. The whorehouse scene.
Brilliant.
That's good shit.
The chemistry between James Westmoreland and Ben Frank, who I'll talk about here in a bit, but it's just funny. I mean, again, there's a lot of stuff in here that is not PC, but it works. And this one is more of a popcorn film, and I don't think has that classic feel of our last film, but
No.
I do think Nicholas Worth is fantastic. It's a good example of you could have played that role very generic.
And he gives it 100. He gives it 200%. I mean,
oh,
really
absolutely.
Yeah.
And even if some people could make the case that he overacted at times, for this role in this script, perfect. It makes it memorable, and he's very intimidating, very scary. There was at one point a scene shot, without giving away the ending, although you can't really spoil this one, but there is a scene shot that set up a sequel that they didn't end up keeping in there. I'll just say the pool scene. Where
it's great.
Yeah.
It reminds me of House on the Edge of the Park.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It's a lot similar to that. And
yeah,
it's really, I mean, it's done really damn well, man. The way somebody dies is all I'm gonna say. But
oh yeah. No, it's and in this extra scene, the pool's empty. I'll just say that. So this could have been something that they would have tried to make into a franchise. I don't know again that it would really have worked the same way, but
I mean, that's like Halloween though, with the Michael Myers thing.
Yeah.
That would have been almost exactly the same.
This is more psychological, but it, like you said, it has the comedy parts to it where it kind of, I think it's got to lighten the mood a little, thrown in there.
Yeah.
This
is unlike the last one, where I think the last one, you like Donnie, you're like rooting for the killer in a way, but this one you just think he's a piece of shit, man. But I would imagine where they showed this in all the grind days is they were just like clapping and cheering towards the end, without giving too much away. But people, he's just one slime ball, man. Really.
This is kind of a perfect grindhouse crowd pleaser.
Oh shit! We forgot to mention, man. You got fucking Porky's in here.
Yeah, the man himself. Yeah.
Sam Gluckman. He was Chuck Mitchell, right?
Yeah.
As Sam Gluckman in this damn movie, and
you just instantly recognizable. Yeah.
This is before Porky's, right? I believe.
No. Porky's would have been right before this.
Really?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought and he was in Better Off Dead. For people that don't know, he's great every time I see him. He's such when I think of a sleazeball, he's the guy.
We need a piece of shit you call Chuck.
Yeah,
basically. I think Porky's is one of the funniest movies ever made. It's in the
comedy. It is. It's superb. But I was going to say, a lot of people said, because this was one of the first. I call it a slasher film. A lot of people have said that a lot of the tropes for the slasher film to come were taken from this film, and I can see that totally. I think even the director was told that, and he, this probably done it first, before a lot of them, the body count, slasher.
Yeah, because you got this obviously traumatized Vietnam veteran.
Yeah.
That's strangling and raping dead bodies.
Right, and I mean, you've got the killer POV.
Crazy.
Yeah, all those killer POV shots as well, didn't come into play until later on in the slasher film, like a year later or 2 years later or so. So yeah, I think this deserves a bit more merit, and credit for what it really gets.
Yeah, I agree. It holds up. It's a ton of fun. Just don't use it as a date movie.
It's not one to. Not for that.
Yeah, just don't follow his actions at all.
It's amazing how, I think every moment that they tried to be funny, it hit for me. There's a scene where I guess he was like the head drug dealer guy. He uses a slur, which I'm not going to repeat, but
racist. Yeah,
he calls the pimp this name, and then he's like, "Who you calling dumb, asshole breath?" Which was hilarious. Or the hooker in that scene where they're raiding the place, and he's like, "You want to live the fuck again?"
I thought you was talking about the other hooker that he he hires from the pimp
Oh
Right.
yeah,
and
Yeah,
gets her
yeah.
to make a phone call.
yeah.
That's a
That was
pretty twisted ass scene too.
I
Like,
think all those
it
shots
is.
as well in LA were like pretty much
Stolen.
stolen as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
kind of like what Lustig did with Maniac, and they were just like, you know, a policeman would come along, you know, the cops would come along and talk to him, and then the guys like signaling carry on with the scene until they go,
Oh,
and then
right.
you know that's the way they did it, and then they pack up their stuff and come back and do it
The
again.
scene where Nicholas Worth is just, I think he was leaning on a street sign or something, and those two cops come up behind him. Those are real cops. They don't even know they're in a
Yeah,
movie,
yeah,
Yeah.
which
yeah,
is wild.
crazy,
But
crazy.
this was an era. I mean, Larry Cohen was kind of the master of it, where, you know, let's just sneak Andy Kaufman into this parade and shoot a movie in the middle of this
Right.
parade. That time will never return. I mean, especially New York, or California for that matter, but especially New York.
Yeah.
Like the shots you got for Fulci's Zombie. I don't know how he did it then, but
Yeah.
like not a fucking chance now are you getting that
Or a
kind of
Maniac,
shot.
you know.
Oh
Same thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
You could
Yeah,
put
the
a
shotgun scene, Maniac.
you could have a camera in an alley somewhere in New York, and they would be breaking that up in about 5 seconds. It's very different world at this time. And we talked about Nicholas Worth, but before we rate this, I do want to talk a little bit about some of the rest of the cast. James Westmoreland, who plays our head detective in this, he had a not a huge name, but he had a respectable career. Did a lot of television. He was kind of a borderline star in the 50s under the name Rad Fulton. He was in the 1958 film noir Joyride. And for horror fans, he was in the horror comedy The Undertaker and His Pals. Speaking of public domain, that popped up on a lot of sets with Don't Look in the Basement back in the day. His partner, played by Ben Frank, also a really notable character actor. If you were a fan of crime shows back in the day, he was on all of them in different guest spots. He also did the 1986 sex comedy Hollywood Zap, Hollywood Vice Squad as well, and probably most known to anybody watching this show as Inspector Mankiewicz in Death Wish 2.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of
Okay,
Ben
yeah,
Frank's
yeah.
big moment. And last but not least, Flo Lawrence. Not a, you know, again, not a ton of notable movies, but she was in Schizoid the
Yeah.
same year, actually. So she had a very busy 1980. She was in.
I'm kind of
Mhm.
confused though. Do y'all think she's a good for the lead, or
She's
Okay, I'd
okay.
say, yeah.
I just
Yeah.
didn't understand it. Like she just don't seem like a lead in a film. But
She's not as likable. I mean, a lot of characters in this, truth be told, there's at least a lot of the women are portrayed as a little bit on the dumb side. Not
Yeah.
maybe her character as much.
maybe she was the smartest one. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I'm just being honest. The women in this particular movie were not very bright.
you cleared that one up, man.
She also was in the canon sex comedy Hot Chili, one that could use a release on Blu-ray. She was in the Sylvester Stallone classic child custody arm wrestling movie Over the Top.
Over the Top. Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
She was in that. Naked Cage, which is on Blu-ray if you want to check that one out. And she had a brief resurgence in Rob Zombie's Lords of Salem. So
She's one of the witches.
I believe so, if I remember right. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. That actually makes sense because Meg Foster and her probably the flashback scene or something, maybe.
If I recall, to be honest, I don't remember exactly, but I'm 90% sure she was one of the witches in that. Okay. So she had a pretty good career. She kept making movies for a long time up until recently, I believe. And yeah, so that's some of the cast. I would say this movie is flawed, but extremely entertaining. It's
Oh
great
yeah,
for
shit.
yeah,
Hell
get
yeah.
your friends over, have some beers, and just you'll have a great time with this. As always, broken record, they don't make them like this anymore.
Right.
No,
No, they
not
can't.
at all.
They're not allowed to. So,
Right.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
right.
So any closing thoughts on this one before we rate it, guys?
Man, I love this movie, man. I could
Yeah.
put this shit on anytime. I crack up, man. There's the scenes that's, maybe I shouldn't crack up, but I do. It's just funny as hell. Like,
No, I get it. I laughed my ass off too. So just I
yeah.
might be a horrible person, but that's the truth.
Right.
Uh, so all right, rating. What do you think, Darren?
Right. So yeah, so I originally seen this probably in the cut version, which I remembered. So going back and watching the uncut, like kind of went up in my estimation a little bit. So I would give it like definitely like a strong 6.5 towards a 7 out of 10. Like you say, it's not going to be for everyone. I don't think it's hard to put it higher than that for me. I know Dirk probably is going to go a little bit higher because I remember Dirk, he kind of told me a few months ago how much he loves this film. But yeah, I'd say, yeah, strong 6.5, I'd say.
Okay. Yeah, man. This one for me, entertainment value, it's a 10 out of 10. But I'm gonna give it an overall rating. I'll give it a 8.5 because I know that there's
Yeah.
things that are wrong, like problems in the film, but I mean it's got a charm to it. It really does, and it's of its time. Just like I always try to explain to people, like try to go into that time when you watch a movie of any time. Like that's what I try to do anyway. Uh, but
Absolutely. As you said, I mean, as far as the entertainment score, that's quite high. I'll give it an 8. But what can I say? I do love the movie, and Nicholas Worth, rest in peace, great character
Hell yeah.
actor.
Yeah.
And once again, I mean, I'm not saying everything on his filmography is great, but there's not a lot of bad movies on there. For the most part, even a lot of his B movie stuff that he did was quite entertaining. So
he's intense.
yeah.
I mean, in anything I've ever seen him in. Like, so
He is, and he was never an actor that ever phoned anything in. You see he's kind of easy to pick on because he says yes to everything. But you see somebody like an Eric Roberts, who's a fantastic actor. I mean, if you look at like some of his best work, he's great.
yeah.
But you could see after a while he kind of just starts phoning in his performances. Nicholas Worth never did that. Whatever he was in, even if he maybe realized that it wasn't the best material, he attacked it. He always elevated it, and certainly somebody that should be remembered for years and years to come.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
He was all the way in.
Absolutely. So we hope you enjoyed the Don't Triple feature, but we did pose a question to you guys at the beginning of the show, and we want to see your answers in those comments. Who is your favorite non-supernatural villain? I say grounded to real life. I guess you don't have to be supernatural to not be, you could still be kind of not exactly somebody that would exist in the real world, but non-supernatural. Do you guys have like somebody that stands out in a film that really just blew your mind?
I do. The first thing that comes to my mind, and Dirk touched upon it earlier, the film, is House on the Edge of the Park, David Hess.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when I think of like that, he's number one. Even like Overkrug from Last House on the Left, that character he plays is just completely brutal, man. The way he is with the young girl Cindy, obviously, all the other stuff he does in the house with all the other characters, the female Manny Bell being the one character as well. But yeah, he tops everything for me. Hess, probably in 2 or 3 roles actually, if you put Hitchhike in that as well.
He was somebody that managed to do something very hard, and we talked about it tonight. He was terrifying and very just a vile character in all of his movies, pretty much. But he also was able to give it just a little bit of sympathy in his performances, like just that little hint of humanity that was there. I mean, Krug, evil son of a bitch, but you would get those little flashes of like there's an actual person there. And I've talked about this. I had the pleasure of actually knowing him. So it was
that's awesome.
I had like real conversations with him, and amazing guy. He was all about his music. He didn't think too highly about his films. Hitchhike was his most proud movie that he did. He did like that.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that film as well. Yeah.
I think he talks about that on an interview at some point, but yeah, just a lovely guy. But man, he could just tap into just something just evil about that he was able to tap into in his performances.
I've said it before. I think he could have gone on and been like a mainstream villain, like a Bond villain or something. He was that good.
Yeah.
He just had that presence about him. Yeah.
Well, mine's kind of might be cliche, might be, popular opinion. I don't know. But Jack Nicholson, man. Jack Torrance and him playing the devil in Witches of Eastwick and in even in The Departed. Like I mean, he's just he's got in the Joker. I mean, shit, he's got to be my number one. And I mean, maybe I'm a little biased. That's my favorite actor of all time too. But yeah, he's got to be it for me.
Yeah, he had it. The Shining. Not to dissect that movie because we'd be here all night, but there's so much going on with that character.
Right.
Not everybody gets
before they get to the Overlook.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's still a shame that he doesn't work anymore because he's an icon. Another actor out there, by the way, that we wouldn't necessarily have if it weren't for Roger Corman. So another piece of that legacy. I'm going to be honest. I was going to talk a little bit about David Hess myself.
Oh, shit.
Oh, sorry, man. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Cause I can mention all sorts of people, but for me, it was always something hit me at some point. Like I never as a kid had that intense fear of like a Jason Voorhees. I love those movies. There's only one Friday the 13th movie I dislike, and that's Jason Goes to Hell. I love those movies, but I never was afraid of that. I was never afraid of seeing Freddy Krueger in my dreams. But I was always genuinely terrified at a certain point when I don't know if there was a specific event, but just realizing that, there's real monsters out there. Dahmer's out there. Gacy's out there. Particularly these people that were able to blend in. They, a Ted Bundy to a degree that you could pass on the street and not even know. So, which is why I posed this question tonight, because again, Donnie Kohler. Yeah. I've seen guys that act like him. Maybe not as realistic, but Kirk from sorry.
Don't answer the phone.
Don't answer the phone.
Yeah.
I knew somebody, and some people that watch this episode know what I'm talking about. That kind of, resembled him.
Because he does great work, right? The character Kirk, he's doing great work. He's a photographer. He's making these, and he knows his craft. But he's got a whole nother side to him. So
he does, absolutely. And the guy I know is like sort of like a miniature version of him. Right. It's bizarre. Just in general, that's what I think is the most disturbing that would hit me. It was never, a Michael Myers or a Freddy. And some of these actors that are able to pull that off. David Hess, way near the top of the list. Joe Spinell,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
something
I
natural.
actually thought
Yeah.
Darren might pick Spinell, but
I was
Yeah.
thinking of it. Yeah, I was thinking
Well,
of it.
but it's
I
got to
will-
be Nicholson for me when I think of his whole filmography.
Yeah.
Villainous characters he's played.
Yeah, I think with Spinell, it's mainly like 1 or 2 roles, but with Hess, for me, it's like almost every role. He's certainly those main 3.
Yeah.
And the guy would terrify me, like basically, when I first started watching his films.
You could throw Tomas Milian in there, man. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He's right up there with Hess, I would say. He's like,
Yeah.
I think Hess was an example of a guy who did it so well that you could only see him in those types of roles. And you can see the way his career went, that for the most part, that's what he was known for. A very funny man. You get to see a little bit of that in Smash Cut, one of his last films, where he got to show his lighter side. Super talented. I mean, he could absolutely play just the normal dad if he wanted to, or a cop or whatever. He didn't always have to be the psychopath, but he did it so well it marked his career. And maybe we would have had a lot more notable performances from him, but he was just too fucking good, and that's what he got.
Do you think he ever had any trouble, like when he was out on the streets, because his performances are so strong? People would come up to him and just, yeah. I would imagine he had trouble all the time off people thinking he is that character or he's exactly like that, because he's so believable in every single role.
And he looked largely the same up until the point that he died. He was maybe a little grayer, but like he looked like the same guy. And he's talked about that, I believe, in public interviews as well, where just somebody comes up to him and it's like, you're a fucking asshole, like, to his face. Just amazing. We don't have enough actors like that. They are out there, but it's hard. Like Joe Spinell, David Hess, those are kind of like once in a lifetime kind of actors that don't come along often. So anyways, guys, drop your picks in the comments. There's so many, so I'm kind of curious to read some of that. And also drop your favorite don't film.
Absolutely.
And we'll leave that open to anything don't. Once again, if it's Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood, you can pick that as well. It doesn't matter. So
Don't Look Now.
Don't Look Now. Well,
that's the pinnacle for me. Don't Look Now is the number one.
The best. That's the best. And in my opinion, that one's the best. But you guys out there might have a different answer. So we hope you enjoyed this triple feature. If you haven't checked it out yet, check out the Sasquatch Show. Of course, I Am Flesh Wound Features, if you aren't familiar, and Subjective Perspective Collective, and anything else you guys want to promote before we head off here.
Go for it, Dirk, if you want.
Yeah, so this we recently did a Mario Bava episode. And so we have a Lucio Fulci episode coming up. We'll be covering Beatrice Cinci,
nice.
Lizard in a Woman's Skin.
Great movie.
And Don't Torture a Duckling. And a lot of people are probably thinking, why the hell? But we haven't covered them yet. So we got to, it's like you gotta do it, kind of do it. So.
And I believe you guys also did a show comparing Dawn of the Dead and Zombie, if I'm not mistaken, that should be available at the time of this record. By the time this airs, will be available as well.
Well, we still got to do that. That's probably several weeks out.
Okay, so
before we do that
it
show.
might already be up by the time you watch
Yeah.
this,
It
but
may come round about the same time as this video.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
we also do Eurocult with Dead Pit. I'm sure many of the viewers on this channel will know Dead Pit.
Yeah.
And we got Nightmares in a Damaged Brain should be out by the time this video comes out as well. So keep a
Yeah.
lookout for that as well.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, check that out. That's going to be awesome. And also check out the other content on this channel, 60 Minutes of Stone. He just did an episode on Cat Shay, which
Yeah.
is fantastic, by the way. That's talk about somebody who, if you're not familiar with Cat Shay, you might even look at her filmography and just, kind of like, I don't know. Doesn't look that impressive, but you look at a movie like Strip to Kill,
Yeah.
a damn fine movie. You wouldn't expect it to be as good as it is by the title, and I'm glad he picked Cat Shay to cover because she is a very talented filmmaker who deserves more eyeballs. So
I think Stone Gasman, I'm going to say something about Stone Gasman as well. Like some of the stuff he does is incredible, like the research.
Yeah.
And he does I remember his old commentary tracks he used to do. And even if I wasn't interested in the film itself, I'd probably watch him just for Stone Gasman. So I got a big plug for him because I really enjoy watching his stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Stone's fantastic, and I mean he has a great knowledge of just film in general, not just horror. Stone is like
He's
a living library for
like a
film.
New Yorker as well, isn't he? Yeah, he's but saying that, I've started to watch all the other channels, all the other ones that's come on to Visited by Voices Network, and man, that's some good stuff, man. All different in their own way, and
Right.
like just highly recommend checking out all those guys' channels.
Yeah. For sure.
Yes, please do. And I think there's some more some newbies that might be debuting on this channel soon as well. So keep an eye out and be sure to hit that notification bell, comment the videos because that means everything. So please do that. And on that note, gentlemen, we will see you back here next time. Have a good one.
Have a good one, guys.
Later, y'all.
Later.